Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our CEO Talks. I'm very pleased today to have Diana Mereu. Diana is the CEO of RASCI, if I pronounce it correctly, Diana. And in a while, Diana will explain us what is the role of this association in Romania, how it has value in the society, and what are the perspectives under the circumstances we are facing now under the COVID and the health crisis. On the other window, again, we have my good friend, Colin Lovering, who will be moderating also our today's talk. I would like now to give the floor to Diana to give us a small background about yourself, Diana, as well as about the association you are chairing.
Sure. Thank you, Mamas, and thank you, Colin, as well, for inviting me to be one of the speakers in the event series that you're hosting. And it gives me great pleasure to be here with you today and share my experience with you as CEO of RASCI. So, as a short introduction for the people in your audience who have yet to be acquainted with who RASCI is and what RASCI does, RASCI is the only trade association in Romania to represent manufacturers, importers, distributors of non-prescription medicines, food supplements, and self-care medical devices. And the association is committed to promote its self-care as a positive, as an effective solution to the health and well-being of Romanian citizens while preserving and improving the integrity of the self-care industry. And I think because I use the term self-care so much, and I will continue to use it along the presentation, just for a quick sum up about what self-care stands for. So self-care entails responsible self-assessment, self-monitoring, self-treatment, only possible when patients are empowered, only possible with increasing health literacy, with professional guidance on healthy lifestyle choices. But for sure, we'll continue to dig deeper into this along the conversation. And because also I think it is fair for you as the hosts and to the audience to paint a brief picture of who the speaker of the day is. I'm a pharmacist by profession with the NGO calling from the very beginning. So I have always tried to find solutions to make people's life easier, healthier, and happier. And I believe that through self-care, people can have the right balance among these three. So contributing to advancing people's knowledge and not only that, but also driving the industry force beneath it in an ethical and responsible manner were the two driving forces that motivated me to join the association in the first place, and also contributing to its developing over the years from a position that allowed me to grow alongside with the association and the Romanian self-care sector altogether.
Okay, thanks, Diana. I feel educated already, and thanks for that definition of what self-care really means. And taking your expression, we will sort of drill down as we go through the interview a little bit more. But let's just focus on the Romanian self-care industry and just understand a little bit more about that, particularly why you feel it's important to focus on self-care in Romania, and really how do you think it's going to evolve over the coming months or even years?
Sure. So self-care in Romania is a growing trend with an excellent growth potential, and we as an association are here to contribute to its steady, sustainable development by supporting market players in their endeavors on one hand, and by contributing to the improvement of consumer health education on the other hand. So what I can tell you is that the existing approaches in which citizens are passive recipients of healthcare are no longer sustainable. So everyone now has to take an active role in managing their own health, in making daily choices on exercises, diet, but also with regards to self-medication. And this sits very well with this growing trend that I was mentioning for consumer empowerment, with increasing access to information on all aspects of health. So if we take into consideration this scenario, self-care in general, self-medication in particular, they generate healthy perspectives, both for the individual, but also for the whole society. And it has already become the building block for patient-oriented, comprehensible, and financiable healthcare.
Okay, it all makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? It's kind of it's almost like a no-brainer, but I'm sure they're the challenges. And we'll come on to sort of the challenges in the present time with COVID-19 in a moment, but just spreading out on a more sort of global basis and the local in terms of the healthcare systems. You know, how is self-care going to benefit local and global healthcare systems and suppliers, etc.?
Sure. So we can say that self-care continues to be overlooked, but this situation not only applies to Romania, but also globally. So the way you framed it, I have to answer that in a way in which I can give you a little bit of the pressures that have increased the fact that the healthcare systems worldwide are not functioning properly, and that would be an aging population, healthcare workforce challenges, and reduced healthcare budgets. So despite being known as the most efficacious long-term measure, investments in prevention is as low as 3% of national healthcare budget. So healthcare systems need policies that ensure sustainability of infrastructure, of service, of network, of workforce, across all care levels. So here is where self-care has a very important role to play, and self-care products can prevent illnesses, can address minor health problems, can reduce pressure on healthcare systems, and it's a major game changer also during the COVID-19 pandemic.
It's interesting in talk about this this sort of very proactive approach, and I think you're highlighting now. I guess it's actually going to take a lot of pressure off the healthcare system, and also help them to focus on improvements and advancements and everything else. So again, I've used the word no-brainer twice now. I think it's kind of coming together quite nicely. Now, obviously, we mentioned about COVID-19. We can't have this conversation without going into that. How does this current situation affect this momentum that you're creating and you're illustrating now of self-care, the self-care mindset, as well as the actual industry itself? How is this sort of COVID-19 crisis affected that? And is it a big hurdle to progress? And what would you suggest is the best solution going forward?
Yeah, sure. So I did paint the positives of this self-care framework, but I have to admit that there are plenty of challenges for companies operating in this sector, and the current pandemic that we're facing is one of them. So the epidemiological situation that was generated by the spread of the COVID-19 virus has been definitely this year's main concern in terms of regulations, but both locally and European-wide. So what Romania has managed to do yet was that it managed to maintain the statistics regarding the infection with the new coronavirus in the parameters specific to the countries in the Eastern Europe. Definitely a restart of the economy is considered necessary, given that this year the level of economic contraction is estimated at around 6%. So during this period, a large number, in fact, of legislative initiatives have been adopted aimed at speeding up this economic recovery. And as expected, healthcare received increased attention from the Romanian authorities, with a significant number of regulations that were issued for crisis management. So although necessary when adopted, that does not mean that they managed to eliminate all the hardships faced by the industry. And if you may allow me to keep a little bit on your time to just emphasize a little bit of these hardships, because here I refer to both material and regulatory aspects. that the industry has to overcome during these difficult times. And to only mention a few, please let me remind you about one of the most notorious of them, meaning the shortages of protective equipment and medical devices, which, when it seemed to be resolved, it attracted an even greater challenge, and that of falsified and counterfeited products. So definitely we are living in extremely difficult times. Definitely action is necessary. And we believe the solution going forward would be coordinated action in this field. So I think all the actors coming together in trying to tackle these issues and these problems would be a way to move things forward at a much faster pace than if they wouldn't.
Interesting. I guess that awareness of the self-care has been accelerated as people are more confined to their homes and more concerned about going out and everything else. And so maybe the opportunity is being sort of created through this difficult time, trying to put a positive note on it. But I guess it's about education as well. And I'm sure there is a great deal of education being promoted right now in the self-care initiative. But Diana, what has been done to use healthcare literacy as a tool to educate Romanian consumers and patients awareness of the embracing of self-care in particular? Because I guess there's a natural thing that when we're ill, we go to the doctor because that's the default. How do we educate and change this mindset?
You just came to a topic that is very much close to my heart, and that is health education and health literacy. And while we are looking forward, the goal for the association is to contribute to educating the public on the importance of preventive actions, but also about the responsible administration of non-prescription medicines like OTCs or food supplements or self-care medical devices through an open and informed promotion of these product categories as an effective solution with a positive impact on the health and well-being of the Romanian citizens. So health literacy is vitally important in helping consumers to self-care, because when we talk about greater knowledge and skills, we also link it to higher confidence and willingness for them to take responsibility for their personal health. So this is why citizens need to have access to accurate, reliable, to easily accessible information that comes from reliable sources. So what we did was to focus our efforts towards contributing this improvement of health literacy by launching a campaign to educate and empower consumers to take informed decisions with regards to the way they manage their own health. And this campaign, the About Health with Responsibility, was prompted by several factors, but only to mention a few: the constant expansion of the self-care market and the spike in communication for this product, but also the increased interest of the population towards health self-management. Mm-hmm. So yeah, for sure we have taken lots of steps forward in that direction, and I'm sure that no matter the situation or the context, the healthcare context worldwide, we will continue in doing so and in providing for healthcare literacy for the Romanian population.
Okay, as you were talking now, I'm kind of curious in terms of, obviously it's a project in process, I still globally as well as talking about Romania. But I'm guessing just a final question before we're going to ask you to give us some good advice to finish. But in terms of the economics, I guess we all say we know our own bodies better than anybody. But I guess in terms of the economics with self-care, the likely sort of diagnosis may be sometimes economically better for people, so they're not spending so much money on medicine because they're having this education that you're providing and talking about, and so they're obtaining the medicines that they really require, rather than spending lots of money on other things and other medications. Is that something that you're already seeing or you're predicting?
I think that is something that we are very much aware. So even if the self-care market is not regulated in terms of prices, we do see a lot of interest coming from the population towards this sector. And while we are seeing it, we see that the interest is not necessarily in the product, but in the well-being of that individual and of that person that wants to acquire this product. So what I'm saying is that we see a lot of interest towards people self-managing their health and being the sole responsibles for their healthcare. But not only this, but also trying to prevent rather than treat diseases that they might face at a later time in their lives.
So really good, as we used the word proactive earlier on, and this preventative approach as well, I guess is vital for us as human beings, but also for the healthcare systems and everybody else. So I'm going to use that word no-brainer once more, and it really is. Diana, thank you for that. I want you to leave us with a final piece of advice for our audience watching this right now. You've certainly drawn me on my own personal need to look at this self-care initiative. What piece of advice would you give to our audience about self-care? What would that be?
I think the key word during these days is precaution. So it is clear that we are living in uncertain times, given also the name of the workshop that we are having, the call that we are having now, and there will be even more challenges heading our way as an outcome of the current situation. And I just read a quote recently, and it went like that: an empty tank will take you exactly nowhere. Take some time to refuel. So I think this is the time in which we have to step back and refuel and rethink and reconsider not only the world around us, but also ourselves. And that will require us to be prepared for the worst, but still expect for the best. So all in all, I would like to tell the audience that they should inform themselves correctly, stay safe, and stay responsible. And this should be the foundation that we all should start rebuilding on.
Wonderful, wonderful. Do you know what, Diana? I think I had a little bit of a headache before the interview, and it's gone. So even your words are creating that well-being, and thank you very much for that, and thank you very much for the discussion. I'm going to hand back to Mamas for some final words. Mamas, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Colin. It's amazing. Know yourself, as the Asian Greeks they used to say, is very important. And this we could see through the discussion that we had with Diana, as well as during our series of the CEO talks. We saw not only from companies, but from big institutions, smaller companies, NGOs, how important it is to have the predictability and the flexibility, the agility during these times, especially during these times. And closing, I would like to thank Diana and you, Colin, very much for our CEO talks, for this chat we had. And I'm sure our audience will enjoy meaningful how Diana is leading the Romanian Self Care Association industry, and what under these circumstances. And we got a very good insight as well on the current context and the challenges and opportunities, of course, that they lie ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you as well. Thank you.